Welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Allison, and we're here to talk to you about the real ups and downs of being in the real estate business.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it. Hey everyone, welcome to Call Before Showing. Today we have a fabulous guest with us. Her name is Elizabeth Tumbelekis, and she is from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we really look forward to speaking with her today. So hey Elizabeth.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Fun fact, Elizabeth and I went to high school together.
We did.
LAB.
Represent.
So y'all know all the dirt on each other.
Basically.
Oh, yes. Early high school, just bad experiences. I can tell you all of those about Alex.
You sure can. So Allison said that you were from North Carolina, and you are there now, but tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you live.
Yeah, so actually my husband and I, we met in upstate New York, and then we moved out to California. So we were kind of near the Palm Springs area, and that's kind of where my husband started to get into real estate investing and then real estate, and we kind of grew from there. So we have a team out there, and then we ended up moving to North Carolina. My husband moved out here first last year, and then I came out here. He was stationed here in Fayetteville at Fort Bragg when he was in the Army, so it's kind of an area that we know, and he had started, like I said, doing real estate investment, and this is a good market for that. And then we actually just sold our house in California, so I am now like 100% out here.
Wow.
Which is great and terrifying.
I was going to say, is that scary?
It's, Fayetteville. So coming from, I was, obviously raised in Los Angeles. So Fayetteville's definitely different than LA, but it's got a lot to offer. It's smaller, and, the people definitely know each other and are kind. And it's definitely an adjustment, though. I will say that.
I totally know what you're talking about. I had a really hard time adjusting when we first moved out to Virginia. But it gets better.
And I feel like Fayetteville is like very similar to where I am. It's like super military heavy, but still kind of small towny for the people who are like there all the time. Is that how it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fort Bragg is actually the largest military installation by population. So there's so much movement out here. I mean, especially like, we're kind of towards the tail end of PCS season, and there's just like a lot of transition, but then there's also those people that have been here forever. And, so there's kind of like this group of people that actually, they live here, they're not associated with the military. And then there's this sort of this secondary group of all military people, which make up like an entire population within themselves.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
My background is I'm an anthropological archaeologist. That's what I went to school and lots of graduate school for. And I kind of worked in international education for a while, and I brought international like students over to attend school from kindergarten all the way up through high school. And that's what I did for a long time while we were out in Los Angeles. And then, kind of as the international markets turn and change and stuff, I just kind of decided that my heart wasn't really in that anymore. And so when my husband's real estate business kind of exploded out here, he convinced me to go to real estate school, which I did. And then he somehow convinced me to go to auctioneering school. So I am a 6-state auctioneer, which is hilarious. Yes, I can talk fast.
We're going to need to get a sample of that. Thank you very much.
It's so embarrassing. You have to like, okay, so I had to go to school for that. And it's like this really intense like school, and you go for, I think, 9 days, 12 hours a day. And you basically like march around in a circle and like learn how to talk fast and
shut up. Oh my God.
And then the exam that they make you take, because you have to like go to their like state office and take this big exam, and it has like a really low pass rate, and it's actually super difficult, and it was a very strange experience.
Wow. So how did that benefit your business?
So my husband developed an online auction platform that we use out here, and it's kind of a way that we can offer for sale by owners or anybody that wants to sell their house, but our target market is typically FSBOs. We can kind of offer them a no commission option to sell their home. And the idea being that on an auction, there's something called a buyer's premium, which can range from 3 to 7%. And that's where the commission for the real estate agents comes in. And so in this market, in Fayetteville, there's a ton of for sale by owners, and they're very, very difficult to kind of convert. I think that they're difficult everywhere. But out here, because it is kind of one of those, small southern towns, they've been selling their house by themselves for, the last 50 years, every house they have. So it's a definitely different market. So, and obviously what they're trying to avoid is paying a real estate commission, because they've obviously, they feel like, oh, that's a waste of money, even though we know in our industry that's 100% not a waste of money. You'll end up making more if you use an agent. So it's kind of a way that we can go in and, just talk to them about the platform. We can do all the marketing and we still expose them and give them an online presence. And then we take our commission out of the buyer's premium. And you need an auctioneer license to be able to run those auctions.
So the buyer's paying that extra fee.
Yeah. The buyer's paying the extra fee, which, I mean, realistically, the buyer's always paying that extra fee. The real estate industry has done an amazing job convincing buyers that they don't pay commission, only the seller does. But the reality is the buyer's the one paying the whole thing. So the buyer does pay the commission. They pay everything. So from a buyer standpoint, we're able to explain this doesn't change anything for you. It just kind of flips, the perspective for the seller on what's happening.
That is super interesting. So when a buyer wins the auction on your auction platform, is it typically they're paying a lower price than like what is listed in the MLS? Or is it about the same as if it was listed in the MLS and the quote unquote seller was paying all the commissions?
Actually, what we found is they typically pay at least market value and sometimes a little bit more. And the reason for that is because when they're in sort of a competing environment where they can see the other bids. So let's say that the property is, let's just go with $100,000. If they're pre-qualified and willing to pay, let's say $120,000, it kind of allows the ability to go up as they see that other people are, let's say, willing to pay up to $110,000, and they can kind of beat that person out.
Right.
So they don't lose the property like we see so many times over a few $1,000s.
Right.
Because it maximizes, right, what they're willing to pay because they can see what the competing offers are. So in some cases, obviously they get a great deal because the seller's just kind of done and just wants to sell. And then in other cases, we've actually seen that they pay a premium on it because they want that property.
So it's really just like the market.
Sort of like exposing the market on both sides and being able to, really show both the buyer and the seller, this is true market value for the home. Now, when we go to appraise and all of that, which they still get all their inspections, they still get appraisals, that kind of stuff, and they can still finance. They don't have to pay all cash. They have to understand that if the home doesn't appraise for whatever it is you're paying, you're going to have to come up with the cash to meet that difference and stuff. And so that's kind of all up front. And they're willing to do that because they understand that, the property is really only worth $100,000, but they're willing to pay $120 just to get it.
Do you see a lot of buyer's remorse because everything is happening in the heat of the moment?
No, because they still go through, like I said, it's still a standard escrow process. Everything is still the same.
Right. I mean, like people backing out during inspection because they're like, whoa, what did I just do?
No, we haven't. Now, that's not to say that that's never going to happen. I'm sure that's going to happen to somebody. But no, we haven't seen a lot of people back out or be remorseful or anything like that because they have a lot of time before they actually make a decision to bid because we do a big open house where they're able to preview the property. They can ask us questions, they can call us. And then when the bidding actually opens up, the nice thing is you really have a group of pretty dedicated buyers that have sort of come to this moment to bid on the property. This is the one they want. And then if we don't get the price that we're hoping for, so let's say that, the seller won't sell for less than 100 and the most we got was 90, you now have a list of pre-qualified buyers on that home that are interested in that home. And you can call them and say, hey, we only got up to 90, seller won't sell for less than 100. Are you willing to come up? In every single case that we've done that, they have come up to the price that, the seller wanted to sell for. So typically it ends up kind of being win-win all the way around. It's like anything else. I'm sure we'll run into positives and negatives.
That's super interesting. I was like imagining you like being the auctioneer on the courthouse steps for like the foreclosure properties and stuff.
Oh, God. We have a guy out here that does that. That is like his thing. And I will never ever take that away from him, and I'm cool with that. I do not want to stand on the courthouse steps.
Like, I was just imagining you doing it and being like, you get a house and you get,
Everybody gets
like
a
Oprah.
house. You're like Oprah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you had left your job in education to now commit to real estate full time. What does that feel like now that both of you are self-employed in the real estate game with its ebbs and flows and everything?
It's terrifying. No, I mean, it's definitely an adjustment. My husband worked a corporate job and, he did really well in that. But the exciting thing about real estate is that, there's really no ceiling on it. And his first 12 months in real estate, I think he made at least double what he made working corporate. And so that's an exciting thing. And I think a lot of real estate, you kind of get back what you put in. But of course, we're stocking away for the lean times and making sure that we're planning for that. But I really truly feel if you build a team and you build systems, that there are certain things that are going to be a little bit more recession proof than others. And especially being in a military town, it's a little bit different because the government doesn't really, they don't really run out of money for PCS moves and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different and safer in some ways market than if we were strictly in California, because we're still licensed in California. We still do transactions in California as well.
And do you plan to continue doing that, or are you at some point going to close up shop and just stick to the East Coast?
Well, most of our marketing and most of our efforts are kind of centered on the East Coast. California is one of those places that obviously coming from California, a little bit of my heart will always be in California. My family's still there. But at the end of the day, it's not cost effective to remain there, particularly when, the markets that you have to break into that, where we live and where my family lives, the marketing cost is so high. I mean, in some cases, we were looking at $20,000 a month to, maintain a stable presence in certain markets that we were in. But I'm sure if you've been there for a long time and you've got, just an amazing referral network and clients and all that are already established and already set up. And, I think that it's perhaps a little bit easier grind than it is when you're sort of just like my husband's from New York, so he doesn't have like any contacts out there that he can just, tap into. But, we still have agents out there that are grinding away, and that's kind of the goal, is to build those teams that do have those market shares already.
So do you think you'll be in North Carolina for a very long time? Like, is that your end goal?
We really like North Carolina. It has a lot to offer. Is it our end goal? I think we're unsure. The market's really good right now, and we're building a pretty solid business out here. I think that we'll have to look at it in a couple years when, the systems sort of run on their own. And when the team just runs on its own, then I think that, we might look to other areas. But I think that part of the way that we're building our business is really around military communities. So I'm not sure that we'll move away from a military community. We may move, like his family's from New York, so we might move to Fort Drum or something like that. But we're, we have something called PCS Pay It Forward. We're in 30 locations with that. And we have thousands of military families that reach out to us every month with PCS questions and moves and stuff like that. And so that's really kind of been a big part and basis of our business.
Can you explain what PCS Pay It Forward is?
PCS Pay It Forward is basically our goal and mission is to make a smooth transition from one duty station to the next. As you probably are aware, being in a military community, kind of, Allison, yourself, I think it's Allison that's in the military community, correct?
Yeah.
Allison's like deep in it. She's all up in there.
We have like one of every branch here. We've got everything. One of the biggest Navy bases.
Oh, wow. So as families get orders, and half the time they have to just buy like sight unseen, or they end up renting, and the rental market's always kind of a weird thing, especially when you're not in, well versed in the area. So we provide a lot of rental support. We provide a lot of basic PCS support where we have Facebook groups at all of these different bases, and we can crowdsource information. We post the rentals that are available in the area every Monday. We do box exchanges. And then from there, we also started a free education program called the Savvy Homebuyers. And it's just kind of to guide families through the home buying process. So for example, the one at Bragg is Savvy Bragg Home Buyers, and each base is named after, whatever their base is called. And so that's been a really good kind of support system that we're able to establish and kind of give back to these communities, and at the same time build relationships in these communities so that they know that, we vet all of the agents they go through. They have to be military affiliated to be an agent for PCS, Pay It Forward. And so that we can kind of ensure that when I send one of my Bragg families to 29 Palms or wherever they're going, I know who they're going to. They've been vetted. It's a referral network within itself, but it's also really a support network where they can come to us and, ask us questions and get all of that information, because there's a lot of rental scams as well that target military families. So that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to avoid.
That is so cool. To me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing and great, because it's one of those things in a military town. The most important thing is to like get them connected to the community like immediately, so that they know like where to go to the doctor and where to take their dog to the vet or whatever.
Right.
And so you've got that set up in like all the different towns as like separate entities, like on social media, or is it websites?
It's all pretty much run through social media on Facebook. So we have the PCS Pay It Forward just general group. I think we're at like 3,000 members or something with that. And then each individual base has their own PCS Pay It Forward page as well.
Cool.
So in order to like, if you want to join the page, you have to, have military affiliation and list that out. And we kind of vet that to kind of keep the community safe. Mm-hmm. And then, we don't allow like realtors and lenders and all that in, because then, they're just going to like prey on these people at all times, and that's not really what we want. What we want is, for them to be able to access the information without feeling pressured to buy or sell or refinance or whatever.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. So that sounds like a ton of freaking work too. So how do you split that task? Like, do you do most of the marketing and your husband is doing the day-to-day like showings and listings and all that stuff? Or how do you split your tasks?
Or do you have an assistant?
Yeah, we have a big team. So we have a social media team. We have, assistants. We have a team of like transaction coordinators. Obviously, we have showing agents. My husband does a lot of the listings, not necessarily all of the listings, but a lot of the listings my husband does. And I do a lot of the social media. I work with our marketing team pretty closely. We're getting ready to put out some video footage and all that. So we're in that process, which is a really long process.
What kind of video footage?
So we're just, we're in the process right now of rebranding and really kind of building up our brand recognition. We kind of did everything backwards. So most people come up with a really awesome logo and colors and like, they build like this really kind of badass image, and then they build the business after. We kind of did it backwards. We built the business and now we're kind of putting together all those sort of cosmetic flashy pieces that go around it. So that's kind of what we're in the process of doing. So we have a marketing team out here that we've recently hired, and so we're kind of getting all that up and going. Being from LA, right, we're not going to put out anything that's not professional quality. We're not, like I don't want to go around with my iPhone and just like film myself and be like, this is our marketing,
Yeah, our standards might be a little higher for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're like, we need a video production crew, a makeup artist.
That's exactly. But anyway, we're excited to launch all of that. And, I think that's just the kind of person that my husband is. He's just one of those, like, I'm going to build the foundation and build, the reputation first. And then all of these other flashy pieces. When we first moved out here, we moved out here right after the last big hurricane. We literally had like 2 days to find a house. We ended up renting a house initially. And my husband was working on like a fold up picnic table because he didn't like have time to go get like furniture and a desk and stuff like that. And it was funny because he's one of the top agents in the MLS, certainly within the top 5 out here. He's like working at a fold up picnic table, and that's hilarious to me.
Well, I think that's just telling that you can be successful regardless of like
circumstances. Yeah.
Right. It's something that I just really admire about him because most people, we decorate our office. We make sure that we have a really cool desk. I mean, this is me, I make sure that like all of my art on my wall looks great. And then, like 6 months later, I start working and my husband's just the complete opposite.
I think that's like a good thing though.
It
Like you
is.
said earlier, something like about you guys did it backwards. And I'm like, I think starting off and not knowing what your business is, it's impossible to brand yourself, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think y'all did it right.
I hope so. We'll see. Check back.
Because it's one of those things like, yeah, you can come up with a cool logo, but like if you don't know the contract and you don't know how to open a lockbox, like you're not going to be a successful agent, like if you don't know what you're doing. So,
Right. Right.
and like if your primary focus isn't the like building relationships and helping connect people to their community and all that.
I didn't until the past few months start working with like a graphic designer on branding and stuff for my business, which was mostly because like when I got started, it was with a team and it was really busy and crazy and I didn't have time to think about that. But now that it's taken me so long to get to this point, I have a very clear vision of what it is that I want to do because I know what customer I appeal to and I know what customer I want to appeal to, and so I've created my branding for that customer, not for what I personally think looks like. I mean, I still think it looks good, but that's kind of what I had in mind when I was going back and forth with my designer, was like, this is my client, so like this logo needs to be for them. I don't know, I think that that's a good way of doing it because what do you know when you're getting started? You have no idea what your business is going to look like.
Right.
And like, why spend the money on branding and all that jazz, or even bother spending your time working on it if like you're not going to be in the business that long? Like there are
Right.
plenty of people who
Right.
like come up with a cute brand or just like buy a logo off of Etsy. That's cute, but it looks like everybody else's in the world.
Right.
And then like they get out of the business a year later or a month later.
Yeah. And we have a branding team that we hired and they're helping with all of that. And it's interesting because I consider myself like a pretty knowledgeable person. I've built other businesses before but when you start working with people that this is like what they do for a living, oh my gosh, you learn so much that you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. I don't know. It's been a good process, I think.
So I have a question.
Hmm.
I follow you on Instagram, and it looks like you are so very deeply in love with your husband, which is beautiful. How do you guys not kill each other working together every day?
So fun fact, my husband and I met on Tinder,
What?
which is hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swipe right.
Oh my
We
gosh.
did. I was in
thought
upstate
Tinder
New
was
York.
like for getting it, but you did.
Yeah, I did. Okay, like I hadn't really dated. I just had a long-term relationship that ended. And so I hadn't really ever dated anyone before. So I was on Tinder and I like, just struck up a conversation with this like badass 82nd Airborne crazy kid who was like the president of this fraternity and like all of these things that I would like 100% reject immediately.
Yeah.
And yeah, Alex knows me from high school, so that's like completely not where I would normally go. But anyway, we went on a date to Chipotle because we was in Ithaca, New York, and there's literally nothing to eat. And I don't know, we just had a great time and kind of dated ever since. Working together has been a really interesting change. So when he worked in corporate and he was corporate for Target, he worked like 80 hours up to 100 hours a week sometimes, never home for holidays because as you all know, like Black Friday starts at 3 p.m. on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, so it was a super nice change to be able to transition into, for him working for himself full time. And I think when I kind of left and went full time into this, it was definitely a shocking transition because I had always run my own businesses and companies and different things. And then kind of working sort of under someone else who happens to be my husband was different. But I don't know, we just get along really well. We don't have a lot of like tension within our business. Like I said, check back with me in a year. I have no idea. But yeah, we work well together. His strengths are a lot of my weaknesses, and my weaknesses are really his strengths. For example, I'm sure, Alex, you've maybe experienced this. Coming from LA and moving to a small town in North Carolina, I have had to learn to, just approach things in a little bit softer way.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I'm the kind of person that I'll get on the phone with you and I'll be like, okay, great. So, we're going to have a showing tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Please have these documents. I will bring these documents. Have a really great day. Done. That doesn't work out here. You have to, talk to them about their family and their kid and, somebody that they met the other day. And, and 15 minutes later, you can tell them that you'll be there at 11 and please have these documents ready.
Yeah.
And then you got to talk for another, 5 minutes about nothing.
Small talk.
Which is much different. My husband's really good at that. He is that person. He was here for 7 years, plus he comes from a small town in New York, so we complement each other, so maybe that's how we don't kill each other.
Yeah, that's great. I totally know what you're talking about with that, and I don't think I was ever able to explain it in the way that you've just explained it, so that's awesome. I just know that when I got to Virginia, I remember the first day I had to go to the grocery store, and the lady at the checkout wanted to know about my life and wanted to have a full-on conversation with me, and I was like, where's my wallet? Where's my wallet? Why is she having this conversation with me, And then I went back to LA a month later, and my mom and I went to the grocery store, and the lady at the checkout didn't even look at us, and I was like, she was so rude. And my mom was like, what are you talking about?
Gosh.
That's so funny.
The southern goodbyes that take 45 minutes. I understand those. I grew up here, so I'm like, tell me about your life. I am that person. Embarrassing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if I go to the bar, if I go anywhere with Allison, I'll be like, where'd she go? And she has 5 new best friends. They all know each other's lives. I'm like, how do you even, why?
Well, so now I'm curious. So is your husband also full-time? Did he retire from the military or?
No, he was in for 7 years. No, he just got out. So we didn't do the whole 20-year.
I don't blame you.
Spiel.
I don't blame you. One bit.
How old is he?
So, my husband, he is 29 turning 30.
I feel like he has to be older. It sounds like he has a lot of life experience.
Well, yeah. I mean, he moved out kind of early and was kind of on his own, a little earlier than most of us. So especially, people like me that lived at home through college. And
I want to talk about your new club.
Oh, yes. My cookbook club. Yes.
So it looks like you're really passionate about cooking. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so how you've managed to turn that into a lead generation source is also very interesting to me. So how did that come about? How did you decide that was a good idea? Tell us about your love for cooking and just tell us what the results have been so far.
Before I went to college, I wanted to be a chef. I actually applied and got into the Art Institute, which is, everybody gets into the Art Institute because it's $100,000, so they take everybody. But anyway, right. So I was sitting at the orientation with my dad, and, my dad was listening to them tell everyone that it's $100,000 to end up with a cooking certificate. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, I think you should try to do an internship or something before you just, throw $100,000 at this. So I did. And I worked at a restaurant in Sherman Oaks called Panzanella's. And I worked there for a couple years. And I was trained from line cook all the way to sous chef. And I worked as their pastry chef for about a year. And that's kind of where my sort of informal, formal training came from. I then, of course, went off to college and graduate school. And a lot of that kind of got lost, but I always kind of stuck with it in terms of just, every once in a while I would, get back into it. So when I kind of left my education company and made the transition out of that, when I was out here in real estate, I love real estate, but it's not my first passion. That's not what I would shape my life around. And so I kind of had to figure out, okay, how am I going to take what I really love doing and somehow turn it into something that's going to be part of this business. That's kind of where we said, let's do a cookbook club out here, which we've done cookbook clubs in other areas. And it's a really great way to connect with the community. But it also kind of developed out of, I was on a lot of the like Fort Bragg wives pages and, just Fort Bragg moms pages or whatever. And a lot of it is just these women who are just reaching out for connection. They want to meet up and they want to do these things. And the problem is a lot of these meetups that happen, I don't know if you've ever been to them or, experienced them. There's somebody that's trying to sell you something. So they want to sell you like their makeup, or they want to convince you to, join their company or whatever. And I really didn't want that. I really wanted it authentically to be a cookbook club. But it has also been a powerful way for us to build relationships in our community in a very real way. It kind of funnels directly into our PCS Pay It Forward mission, because a lot of the families that are in Cookbook Club and that we interact with are military. They are going to PCS at some point. And so we're more or less just kind of advertising ourselves in the long term on a relational basis, not a here's my card, let me sell your house later. That's not what we do. We don't even mention anything about our real estate company or anything like that, because I think that in order to be successful at these sorts of groups, you just have to be kind of authentically yourself, and they either like you or they don't, and there's not really anything you can do about that. But based on kind of the way that the military groups work, they're not necessarily from here. They don't necessarily have a real estate agent that, their family has used, and they, so it's a good opportunity to kind of build that relationship and, in the mix of it, let people know I can also sell your house, and you know me and I care about you, and we've got to know each other. The other thing too is that through the course of getting to know us, they see our production, they see, what we do. And so it's just been a good way, I think, to build relationships and have access to the community in a way that's not in your face advertising, and in a way that, I don't have to shove the fact that I'm a real estate agent down your throat, because I really hate that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So now I'm being totally clueless. What is a cookbook club? Like, do you guys take a cookbook and like everybody cooks something out of the cookbook and then you all eat it? Or what is this?
Yes. So in this cookbook club, since we started, we have 73 members. So we're kind of a big cookbook club, but we've grown other ones to 100 people. And so we break up into smaller groups. Like about 8 is kind of the max that you can have in one group, because otherwise people can't host more than that. So we host them at different people's houses, and we meet once or twice a month, kind of depending on if there's holidays and different things. And so, like, for example, this round we've picked Barefoot Contessa's book, Foolproof. So what happens is the person that's hosting, they cook the main dish, and then the other members bring like the cocktails and the sides and the desserts and different things from that cookbook. And you bring it and you discuss the recipes, you discuss, the author, you just talk about life. And it's just a way to get to know people in small groups that are all kind of living this shared Fort Bragg experience, or wherever you are. And so, yeah, and then once we're done with that cookbook, then we move on to the next one and the next one and the next one.
I love that. I think that is so cool, because it's like a supper club, but like you have the cookbook to talk about, which is like really cool. I have never heard of that.
It's also a good safeguard, because you have the cookbook to blame if, you suck at cooking and your recipe turns out horribly. You can be like, oh my gosh, Ina Garten,
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's, she's terrible.
Yeah, she doesn't know a damn thing.
She sucks.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I started that kind of is a kind of a first time for me is an offshoot of Cookbook Club. I just started cooking classes. So there's a lot of young wives out here that, they don't know how to cook. As you probably know, the military, a lot of these people get married super young. These are the communities you find like the 18-year-old wives and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I've started cooking classes, which I host in my home, and I just teach people like basic cooking skills. And it's cool because we have like a wonderful group of women, and I think like half their husbands right now are deployed. And so, they're just looking for community and connection. And this is an actual skill and something from my heart that I can give them that's useful. So it's been a good connection for me. I enjoy it.
I love that.
So I know that you are a very hard worker. And that's something that I've always really admired about you.
Thank you.
And I want to know where you get your work ethic, and if you have any great strategies for being productive, or any, kind of things that have stood the test of time.
I think I would say I find that I'm a very goal-oriented person, and I'm a visualizer. So I try and visualize whatever the goal is. And it's a little bit of that sort of find your why, but it's very much for me, if I want to go on a nice vacation, or I want the freedom of working from my home, or, one of the things that my husband and I are really focused on right now is building passive income so that we can retire in the next couple years, because I actually don't love working. But I'm definitely one of those people that I will do things and I will work as hard as I can towards that goal. And the more that I visualize it, I feel like the harder that I work and the more focused that I am. But I think in conjunction with that, you have to find something that you're passionate about. I know that when I first got out here and first kind of transitioned out of my own business, like I said, real estate is not my first passion. And I am 100% upfront about that. But like, I love to cook. I love building relationships with people. And so I found ways to incorporate that into the way that I contribute to our business. And I run most of our PCS pay it forward stuff. And a lot of that is, things that I'm passionate about. I want to meet the wives and the moms and the spouses of all of our military community and really get to know them. That's what I love to do. And I love to do it in a way that I don't have to sell them real estate. I will sell them real estate eventually, and we have. And it's been a good funnel for that, for lack of a better word. But I will tell you that my husband's strategy is a little bit different. He is very much the kind of person that he just goes and does it. And he figures out the details later. He figures out, how to make it flashy and pretty later. But he's definitely one of those people that is all about, you just start somewhere, start anywhere, do something today that you didn't do yesterday, and work at it with all your heart. And he has seen, a lot of the positive results out of that. And I guess I would encourage anybody that's trying to make the transition to working for themselves full time, to really just start somewhere. And it is scary. When he left his corporate job, because he had a great corporate job, he was making six figures. It was very stable. It had full benefits. It was awesome. But it was a job where he wasn't rewarded the harder he worked or the more he worked. It was just sort of, here's the, the pay scale, here's the bonus scale. This is kind of the way that it all works. And whether you put in 100 hours or you put in, 50 or 60 hours, it didn't really present you with a lot of other opportunities. You kind of just go up that scale and you max out at whatever it is that you max out at. And that's, not motivating. But with real estate and with any career that you are working for yourself, you do get back what you put in. And I think that right now we're definitely making sure that we're working smarter, not harder. And we're trying to streamline our systems and make them efficient. Yeah, I guess to sum it up, find something that you're passionate about and incorporate it. And definitely, I would say visualize goals is something that I've always done, even through school. I always visualized, the diploma or the job or the grad school or, whatever else it was. And that kind of kept me going. And then I think that my husband's advice would be just start, just do it. Don't make excuses for why you don't have a pretty office and a flashy desk, and don't make excuses for, why you just got out here. How can you go meet somebody? My husband has sold real estate in the parking lot of Harris Teeter because he struck up a conversation with somebody, which is definitely his strength. Definitely not my strength. I will not start a conversation with you in the parking lot of Harris Teeter.
I will. I feel like your husband and I would either love each other or hate each other.
I think you would love each other.
We'd be like in competition. Like, no, I'm more outgoing than you are.
We went to eat a cheeseburger at this restaurant one time and he sold the guy a house the next month. And I'm just sitting there like, what did you just do? So, he's just really personable and I'm really not. And that's totally okay. We don't have the same strengths. Everyone describes him as really super sweet. You will never hear me described as really super sweet. It will not happen. But, we're trying to play off of each other's strengths, and I'm learning a lot from him and he's learning a lot from me, and we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. We are going to end the podcast today with a fun game. Are you down for a game?
I'm always down for a game.
Okay, cool. It's called Have You Ever? And you basically just answer if you've ever done these things. So, have you ever broken a bone?
Yes.
Ooh, which bone?
I've broken my jaw. I've broken my wrist. I don't.
You get into a bar fight?
I didn't. I got hit at LAB actually with a softball. Somebody hit a home run. Congratulations. But as I was walking by, it hit me right in the jaw and it cracked my jaw.
No.
Yeah.
You were just an innocent bystander.
I was so innocent.
That's crazy.
Cracked my tailbone.
Your tailbone?
I did. I had a group of not so nice cheerleaders that tossed me over their heads, and I landed on the gym floor, and I got a small crack in my tailbone.
Was that at LAB too?
It was, yes. And then I cracked my growth plate. I don't remember how I did that. I think I fell on it in elementary school or something.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's a lot.
But that's it.
Sorry we made you relive all of that trauma.
It was all minor.
Goodness.
It was always a hairline fracture, you know? I never had like a compound.
Did you have to sit on a donut?
I had to sit on, like this special pillow. Yeah. For like 8 weeks or something.
My sister broke her tailbone snowboarding when she was in high school, and she had to sit on a donut, and I was 5 years younger than her, and I made fun of her every day, and I feel really bad about that. Sorry, Patty.
Yeah, now we have to pay for her therapy, Alex. What the hell? All right. Next question. Have you ever been on the radio or on TV?
I have been on TV. I don't think I've ever been on the radio.
Was it like on the news or was it on?
I was on in China, they have something called CCTV, and I was a guest judge on an English competition, English talking competition.
Oh my gosh, you're famous.
Yeah, I hope not.
When you land in China, they're all like ready for you and they recognize you.
Yeah,
with
they're like,
signs.
welcome.
That'd be awesome, right?
Have you ever broken something in a listing?
No, I haven't.
Like, for example, I was walking on a deck that was like super rotted and I fell through it. Like my foot fell through.
Oh, no.
No.
That's scary.
That is. Oh my gosh.
Now it's a material fact. You have to disclose that. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, I was showing it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it wasn't your
terrifying.
listing.
Yeah, so I called the agent and it was one of those like as is foreclosures.
Of
so
course.
they were
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't really care. And I was like,
They
okay,
don't.
great. Have a great life. Have you ever been skydiving, bungee jumping, or parasailing?
I have not. I would love to go skydiving, but my husband's continual response is, I don't pay people to jump out of airplanes. They pay me.
Okay.
So, because he was airborne in the military.
Oh.
So he has no interest to like fun jump with me. So I'll probably never go because I won't go by myself.
Okay, that's fair. Have you ever re-gifted something?
Oh, yeah. That's not even embarrassing. I don't care. I will totally re-gift your crap. If you give me something crappy, it's going to someone else.
I love that.
So cutthroat.
Have you ever won a contest?
Yeah, no, I've never been like a raffle winner or anything like that.
Didn't you, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be very wrong, but weren't you awarded like a special scholarship or something like that? Something cool like that for Cornell?
Yeah, I was a Lemelson Scholar at UCLA, and I was I had my PhD fully funded at Cornell, but I don't know if you really win those so much. It's like you work your ass off.
Yeah, that's not like a
Right.
random chance.
That's not a raffle.
That's awesome. Have you ever talked your way out of getting in trouble?
No, I talked my way into it. If you pull me over, I got put in the back of a Mississippi state trooper car because I like talked back to him. And in North Carolina, I almost got arrested for disorderly conduct because I apparently, quote, ran my mouth to the police officer. So no, I don't talk my way out. I get every ticket I get pulled over for, every one of them.
Oh gosh. Have you ever met a celebrity? I imagine so, because you're from LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of celebrities.
A lot.
And
Yeah.
have you ever? Who was your favorite celebrity that you met?
I thought Will Smith was really funny. Like genuinely, like funny the whole time.
Oh my god, I would be like, hi. Oh my god.
You would just be peeing yourself.
I know. Like if I go to LA, I'm gonna be a hot mess. I'm gonna be like, oh my god.
You'd be like Lucy and Ethel.
Yeah, seriously, I'd be a hot mess. Okay, and this is the last one. Have you ever texted something embarrassing to a client or another agent?
No, but my husband had somebody accidentally send a nude photo to him that was not supposed to go to him from a client.
Was it really an accident?
It was 100% an accident because
Okay.
she was dating a guy named Brian or something, and he's Bryant. And we actually had met both of them. So that was a legitimate thing.
The reason I asked that is because there's a thread in one of the like referral groups that I'm in online that is a bunch of people's like embarrassing autocorrects.
Oh, that's awful.
And there's some really bad ones.
Oh my gosh, that's awful. I totally need to
that.
get in on that. I need to know. I love that stuff.
I'll send it to you guys.
Never done like something super embarrassing, but there was one time when I was texting back and forth with a buyer, and it was like kind of a high stress situation for her. She was kind of freaking out. But at the same time, I was taking pictures of all of the cute stuff I had gotten at Target to send to my sister. We're like talking through this high stress thing, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll call right now and get back to you. And then I go to send the picture of my Target haul to my sister. And I type like, I don't know, what do you think about this bath mat? And she responded and was like, it's cute, but I think you texted the wrong person.
That's so funny.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. I really had fun with you ladies.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.